There we go.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to episode number 2 of The Easy Way, where we're going to talk about real estate. We're going to talk about other ways to make your life a little bit easier and so you can be successful in whatever you're trying to pursue. I'm here today with Credit Carl from Credit Blueprint, right? Mm-hmm. Carl, welcome.
Yeah, don't even try to say my last name, too.
Yeah, I already screwed it up once, right?
Thanks for having me.
So, yeah, in today's episode, we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff, not the least of which, in a minute, we're going to jump into how a failed drug test for somebody that never took drugs before, right?
Is he here?
Turned into $1 million business, right? So we're gonna jump into that.
Is that guy here?
That's right. He'll be here shortly, right? So listen. Today, I'm going to start off. Last night was a pretty big event over at Grand Lorraine. You had Masters of the Market put on by TCS Management, PA Off Market, and Gold Aller. And I'll tell you what, unbelievable.
Blew your mind?
Unbelievable. I mean, I'm looking around the room. I mean, thankfully, I got a front row seat, and I got 2 billionaires sitting 10 feet from me. You know, listen to them talk about this market that we're in right now in Philadelphia. It was unbelievable.
Crazy.
Yeah, I mean, if you haven't seen all the advertising, you haven't seen what's been going on. We were 4 panelists. We had Richard Aller, owner of Gold Aller Real Estate. We had Gary Jonas, who's a developer, owns a bunch of businesses.
Hal Properties. Shout out to Hal Properties, man. Those guys are awesome. Bill McLaughlin, Gary Jonas, Gary Rissler.
I mean,
awesome.
Heavy hitters.
Those guys were in the mortgage business with me when I started, 98.
Yeah.
And they were the guys that had the vision to jump out of the mortgage business when everyone was like, no, this is a refi boom.
Right.
And they started doing purchases. Everyone was like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
And there's Hal Properties, there's Gary Jonas, just those class organizations. So.
Well, and it's amazing how he was able to pivot when he saw the changes in the market and jump in when everybody's rushing out. I mean, like really
Crazy,
insightful,
right?
really smart
Smart
stuff.
guys, yeah.
Mike McCann, the real estate man, was there last night. I mean, that guy is so pumped on real estate. Like it gets me excited hearing people talk about Philadelphia and some of the changes that have happened. I mean, you know, I've been doing this for 11 years, and like I can see changes in Philly over 11 years. But you look at this at 20, 30, 40 years, my goodness, it's a totally different place. And I mean, this place is just, it's awesome. I love this city. So cool.
Am I allowed to apologize to Mike real quick?
Yeah, go.
I have to apologize to Mike McCann because normally Mike really upsets me. I probably introduced myself to Mike McCann 5 times. He looks right through me. He never knows who I am. So I'm no longer mad because that's my fault. I'm not doing a good enough job with my advertising and my company. So hopefully the next time I meet Mike McCann, he goes, that's Credit Carl. I know that guy.
Well, maybe now he will. Maybe now he will, right?
It's my fault.
But you know who blew me away last night more than anybody else is Alan Dom. I mean, that guy. You know, look, I'm not real political, but listening to him speak and his insight into the market and real numbers on what's happening in the city. You know, the recidivism of young professionals that have kids that are leaving the city, and he's talking about how to retain those people in the city and some of the major changes that have had huge impact on the real estate market, on just the feel of the city. Was so insightful. I mean, it's got me excited for there's some rumors that he might be running for mayor.
You talk about Amazon at all?
Yeah, a little bit. And you know what was pretty interesting about that conversation? So he threw out there a number of like, there's a 10% chance that Amazon comes to Philly. Now, that to me, that's a pretty big number.
Right.
I mean, 1 in 10, you know, there are only 10 other cities or 9 other cities.
So you're an optimist, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, dude, after the Super Bowl win, I'm telling you, I called it. I think Philly right now has so much momentum. It will not surprise me one bit if Amazon is coming to Philly.
Went out to dinner with George Beatty not that long ago. He was talking about that. He's like, dude, like, something about that Super Bowl win, because I don't really care about the Eagles. I don't think he cares too much. He's into karate or whatever else he's doing in his house with his suit coat on. But he's like, that's just something, you know, something there with the Birds winning and this city, like.
Well, it just seems like everything seems to be clicking and coming together. I mean,
Yeah.
right now the real estate market is just, we're hitting the spring market.
By the way, we got to give a shout out to JB, Jeremy Bowers.
I know,
He's
Jeremy's
home with the
sick.
swine
Ah.
flu. He caught the swine flu, and we hope he's getting better. We wish you were here too, brother.
We were trying to conference him in here, and his voice is all raspy. Oh, hey, get me on the call, get me the call. Like, come on, man, come on. But I just thanks everybody for being here and sharing the show. And Jeremy, lots of love. Hope you feel better, get better. And last night he was like being held up by two guys walking out the door. He was not feeling so good. So hey. But yeah, I mean, last night was amazing. It was really a great.
So your one takeaway, your huge takeaway.
Exactly. So I was thinking about this. The one thing that, because I got started when I did, I got started in 2007 wholesaling properties, and as soon as 2008 hit, you had this huge downturn. Mm-hmm. Property values went down, and frankly, I kind of missed that wave to get those, basement prices.
Yep.
And in retrospect, I look at it and I'm like, man, I really wish I would have done that. So since then, I've been really looking for the next downturn. What's the next opportunity?
Have cash ready to buy as much as you can.
Exactly, to buy up as much as I can. But one of the biggest takeaways that I got last night was Richard Aller was talking about how he's evaluating properties, where is there a downturn coming? What's the changes that are foresee? What are the differences in the market? And the biggest takeaway that I have is that financing seems to be the starting point with all of these long-term buy and hold investments, where it's not so much the price. It's the price obviously plays into it, but the financing is really the pivotal point on the whole transaction, and has a lot to do with the value of the asset.
Kind of blows your mind a little bit, right?
It really does.
Yeah.
I mean, but you think about it,
everyone's so price.
Exactly.
Right?
But I mean, you do think about it. It's like you get a 4.5% or 4.75% interest rate over 30 years, right? That's what $450, $475 a month for a on a mortgage. That jumps up to 7, 8, 9%. Now you're talking 700, 800, 900 per 100,000. I mean, that's a huge difference in cash flow.
Huge number.
You go from making a couple $100 a month to losing money on the same investment, same price. So I thought that was really good. And this is a great segue to Carl. And I mean, it really is a tell to how important it is to have good credit to really make sure that you can get the best interest rates regardless of the market. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I want to kind of jump in there if we can.
Absolutely. You were kind of blown away with that. I just got back from the 10X Growth Con. So Grant Cardone and those guys, man, those, hanging out with those guys and seeing how people think big. And, I just did my Chronicles of Credit Carl on Tuesday, and I had two guys with me. We did a recap, Evan and Paul Friedman. Yep. And we were just recapping on the event. And I was literally 3 speakers in, and I was like, I could leave right now. Like, I got enough value from 1 or 2 things that somebody's worth $50 million had said. And I was like, okay, I'm in. I know what I need to do. Like, I'm complicating this. It was like, it was an eye-opening experience. Like, when you're trying to, like, make time and, like, compress time. When you look back at stuff that happened to you. Sorry, this was my aha moment at my 10X. We're going to talk about credit in a second. But my moment there was, I can look back at things that I tested and they didn't go my way, and then 6 months went by before I did it again. I'm like, no. What they're telling you is just move on to the next thing immediately, because time is not on your side. Right. Move on immediately, test it, and then figure out the next piece. You don't know until you test this stuff. I'm talking about marketing. That's what I'm talking about there. Or scaling your business or adding employees you don't know. You could have a horrible experience with an employee and be like, that's it, I don't want to hire anyone again. Right. Or I tried Facebook advertising. Or I don't want to work for anyone else. It's like, dude, time, it's not on your side. So make it work for you, man.
Well, dude, and that kind of goes to, like, we do a lot of marketing direct mail. I get a lot of feedback from people. I sent out this mailer and it's not seeming to hit. I got a 0.5% response rate.
Yeah.
Well, mail it again.
Like, again.
Don't just do it once.
Switch something and test it again.
Exactly.
Just keep testing it. Right. The last thing I'll say on this growth con, because we're not here to talk about that. The person that spends the most money on advertising dominates that space. That's an eye opener. That's true. How much are you spending on marketing right now?
Yeah.
If you're spending nothing, you pretty much don't exist. You
Right.
don't exist. Nobody knew who I was in a room full of 9,000 people. And that really bothers me. That means that my company is not spending enough money on advertising.
Well, dude, if you're every business is a marketing company primarily, and then everything else falls into place. I mean,
Yep.
obviously you have to execute. Obviously you have to have a good service or a good product. But none of that matters if you don't have people coming in the door and buying your product. It doesn't matter.
And you want to have your finger on the pulse. So you're right.
Right.
Every business is,
Yep.
is marketing, but you got to have your finger. That's the one thing that you can't let your finger off the pulse. Is you can't give that out to someone else to do that task.
Right.
If you own this, you own a company, you have to know how everything works, how that market. Ty Lopez said that. Like his mentor said, don't let anyone else run more. Everything else you can outsource.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean that's a really good point.
Yeah.
It's a good takeaway. I mean,
Right.
But what's amazing about these big events, right? There's such a big lead up to it. You hope that it's going to deliver what it seems to be able to, and like there's so many things that you could take away from an event like last night or from the 10X conference.
Positives and negatives. Yeah.
Well, exactly. But like if you take one thing away, it can change your entire business. It can change, like literally change your life from one different change of perspective.
This is important too, right? If you are ready to receive that information.
Yeah.
There was people in that audience, I'm sure there was people last night that said, this was okay. People at the 10X going, they could have done a better job. If you are not ready to receive that information, not everything that you go to these events is, you're not going to take everything with you. But if you're ready to receive that information, like you're there, you're going to soak it up. And then you got to find a way to get out of motivation and execute. Take massive action on whatever you picked up from these people.
Yeah.
Josh is
sorry
officially
about this.
left the show. By the way, we just met
An hour ago?
20, 30 minutes ago. Like we've been friends our whole lives. Perfect.
Yeah, that's awesome. So when I was talking to Carl before we sat down here, one of the biggest questions I brought up. So like a couple of years ago, I wanted to really get my credit, like A+, everything in line. And so I went out and I signed up with Lexington Law. And I mean, they're like probably the biggest name in the industry. Is that fair?
Yeah, Lexington Law, yes.
Yeah, and they did a fine job for me. But one of the questions I had to ask is like, what's the difference between you guys and Lexington Law? Like, what's the are you guys just local or what's the deal? What's the difference?
I got this really cool marketing idea. So if there's any attorneys out there watching, you ever watch those commercials? If you've been a victim of mesothelioma, call this attorney. I feel like, what if I ran that ad for Lexington Law? If you've been a victim of Lexington Law, click here, you're entitled to better credit. If there's an attorney out there and you can convince me that I can't get sued, I'm running that banner ad tomorrow. Because that leads into your question, which is Lexington Law, right? I mean, they are the largest company in the country. Oh, that bothers me to say. And they dominate the whole first page of Google. If you put in Google, there's 5 different sites that lead you back to their sites that rank all these companies. You're like, okay, guys.
I mean, and all their affiliate programs and stuff like that. I mean, they saturate.
Huge. They're huge.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we get their fallout. We get the customer that tries Lexington Law for 18 months and they have a bad taste in their mouth, and then they go to step 2. Step 2 is Credit Karma. Well, I've given up on that. Credit Karma is an app that's free, and there's some advice on here, and I'll take it, and then they end up with us. Okay, you guys are a local company, we think, we're going to work with you guys, and then they tried the big company, they tried the free thing, and they still got a 590 credit score or a 610 credit score, and they're like, okay. So, what's different from us, besides the fact that, I'm very proud. I mean, we're A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau. So I founded this company 7 years ago, and we'll talk about how I founded it a minute ago. But 7 years ago, I founded this company, and I've been working my butt off. My team's been working their butt off to maintain that A+ rating. Really hard to find an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. Okay, so yeah, A+ with the BBB, and for us, okay. We make it a very personalized strategy for the customer versus just, hey, let's send some letters out and hopefully 5 things come off there and those 5 are worth 10 apiece and there's 50 points. It's a very personalized strategy for the customer, and that's the difference, man. Like 1 or 2 little things right here that you get advice from one of the coaches and you go, holy crap, I'm credit cocky now. That's the difference.
I love it. Love it. Yeah. That's great. That's great. So let's circle back a little bit. You mentioned it when we were talking, you know, how I said, how'd you get into this?
Right.
He goes, oh, I failed a drug test. I'm like,
Right.
what?
Right.
Let's talk about that. Like,
Right.
how do you turn a failed drug test into
Right.
$1 million business?
Yeah, talking about a guy who's never done drugs before. By the way, Christine Day's on here. I don't know who that is, but what's up, Christine?
What's up,
she
Christine?
said, nah
How you
on
doing?
the hats. I think that means she doesn't like the hats.
Oh, come on. They're awesome. I love the trucker hat,
Credit
man.
cocky
It's great.
hat. All right, that's okay. No big deal. So anyway, I failed a drug test. That's how I got. So like I said, I was in the business with those guys over at Hal Properties, Bill McLaughlin. 98 to 08, I was in the mortgage world. I was a loan originator. Things were great. We were doing refinance. The bottom fell out in 08.
Yeah.
And I jumped out and I started doing credit repair a little bit. And it was like 3 months out. I was like, this is awful. People were handing me leads in the mortgage business, and now I'm doing credit repair and working with this type of client. I'm like, you got to be kidding me, man.
Yeah.
So I call my manager back. I'm like, get me back in. I was one of the top producers there. She's like, no problem. HR wants you to go through a routine drug test. I'm like, no problem. By the way, never done a drug in my life. Never, ever touched a drug. I got to be in control. Never. So I go to take the test. I can't fill the cup up. Listen, by the way.
Meanwhile, it's like a
Okay, yeah, by the way,
2-liter bottle.
the line was up here, okay? It was a very high line, for the record. I can't fill it up. So
Right.
the girl goes, come back the next day. So I'm like, no problem. I'll come back the next day. I get a call from HR. We suspect foul play because you didn't complete the test on the day we asked you to. We can't hire you back.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, are you kidding me, man? So it forced my hand. I had to go in and learn the credit repair business. Partnered up with someone. I was like, I can do it better than this guy, and I'm going to start my own thing. And my wife was really that person. She was like, you can do your own thing. You don't need anyone. I'm like, are you crazy? I don't know anything about running businesses. And I was just learning the credit repair piece. And I was like, I don't know. And she's like, just do it. That advice, that Nike slogan right there is what made me leave that company, start my own thing.
Yeah.
And the rest was it. And, to be honest with you, Josh, for the first 6 months, there's a lot of people that didn't use me. I'm going to tell you a good Jeremy Bauer story that he's watching, okay? There's a lot of people that didn't use me, but we learned. Like, I didn't know everything that I know about credit 7 years ago. As a matter of fact, people started with us,
Yeah.
and the scores went down 50 points. I'm like,
That's
not
crazy.
good. So what we learned from our mistakes, and what did I do? What did we do wrong with this person? How do I
Right.
make this company better to where people never complain? We keep our A+ rating, and they always get some kind of value if they leave this program.
Yeah. Yeah, great. That's awesome.
So that's how I got in. A failed drug test. That's where I'm at today. And well, everything happens for a reason, right?
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. I think something interesting about your story. I've got this theory that behind every successful man is a successful significant other that gives them the support they need, gives them the backbone to go out there and dude, things get tough sometimes.
Yep.
And you need somebody that's going to be supporting you, talking,
telling you about
and just when you have that moment of doubt, they can step in and be like, "Hey, listen, it's going to be okay. Let's move forward." And I guess I know with my wife, I do that to her sometimes, and it goes back and forth. But it's a big deal.
I couldn't agree with that anymore. Like it with